Thanks for this, guys. I know it's always beneficial to try to pull people together to tell their stories and then just kind of have a conversation about it and not have it be so structured. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you guys are real people trying to do some real stuff, and I think sometimes I get lost in the shuffle of trying to navigate the bureaucracy, if you will. So, um, have you guys been to any concerts recently?
What was the last?
Post Malone.
We went to Post Malone.
Post Malone. What do he is a very unique person. Every time I see him, I'm like, okay, I thought Post was like this kind of guy, and then he comes out and he's just
It's
himself.
one of those artists too where you're like, you almost don't realize you know way more songs than you know of him. Like
Okay.
the catalog starts playing, and you're like,
Yeah,
whoa, I forgot about all of these, right?
but it was
Did you
like a
get to front
real.
row? Front row?
We were pretty close.
Yeah, Daniel. So we took my sister and her husband, and Daniel surprised us with a ticket upgrade. So when we got there, we were a lot closer than we originally thought. So it was pretty fun.
Nice job, Daniel. Win. I love it. Okay, so tell me, what was your favorite song?
I mean, Circles is one of my
Yeah,
favorite. They were all so good. Like he's just one of those like true like a rock star, you know?
yeah.
Like he's full of energy the entire time,
Mhm.
pyrotechnics, everything. So
So
yeah.
I love to go to concerts with my husband Nick. We tried to take we're trying to start to take Jacob, who's 12, to concerts now. And I think on a whim, we were like, okay, this is going to be your first concert. Let's go. We went to see Sam Smith for, at the time, a 9-year-old. Probably not the most appropriate show to take it to see. Um, but again, we have to remind ourselves he's 9. He's seen worse than what Sam Smith was doing on stage, on TV, on movies, and stuff like that. So it was fine. He had a fantastic time. We had the kind of seats that you didn't have to stand the whole time, so you could like
Nice.
sit and relax and still see the show, which I can appreciate because we've gone to see Madonna and Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys, and we saw Beyonce, but you have to stand the whole time because everybody in front is standing also. So it's like,
Absolutely.
want to see, you better stand on your tippy toes and jam with everybody else. So what else have you guys seen besides good old Posty?
Um,
We did Beyonce.
yeah, we did Beyonce
Okay,
Renaissance.
which Beyonce
Um,
Renaissance?
yeah,
Yes.
What'd you think?
she's my favorite. So I loved it.
Yeah. We probably had the best tickets seats there that I think I've ever had for a
Yeah,
concert.
we
So
really went like
we went,
VIP for that.
yeah, it was amazing.
Nice. Well, sometimes you got to splurge.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little treat, right? And then we've got Lady Gaga coming up in
yeah, next
September.
month.
So
Ooh, now
Lady
that's
Gaga's my favorite. So we always gotta pull both sides, right? But I'm pumped. We've seen her probably like
Oh,
6 or 7
yeah.
times.
oh, so this is something you guys do on a regular. It's a thing for you to go see concerts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
concerts are a thing. Like when we went to Vegas, we like made it a point to like see Gaga when we were there too.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a part of our journey.
So what do you guys do in Vegas? You guys go see all the like the Cirque du Soleils and the all the shows that are there, or is it just primarily like music concerts?
That was our first trip. We've only been once. And we were there for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah,
So we saw Gaga. We did a lot of like touristy
all the
things.
touristy stuff. We did
Yeah.
like the double-decker bus tour, right? We ventured around to all the casinos to see the like lobbies and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So
You guys walk the strip from one end to the other?
Yes. And we ventured off the strip and got lost and had to call a cab to get back to the strip. It was just, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
well, kudos first of all, because walking the strip from one end to another is an all-day event.
you
Yeah.
literally, I think that's why we didn't do much else because it took a majority of our time. And it was fun. It allowed us to like see everywhere, and yeah, it was good. We had a good time.
Yeah.
We always say next time we go back, we're doing the food scene. Like we did a concert and we did some gambling, but I think next time we want to do the food scene. But you got to choose your poison because I feel like Vegas is like you do it in small stints. You can only fit in so much, and it's got a price tag, right?
A hefty one. I would say I've been to Vegas a million times because obviously we're in Arizona. So it's not that far. It's a 45-minute flight whenever you want
Yeah.
to get out there. So I've been on my own. I've been with Nick before we had Jacob, and then obviously since having Jacob, we've taken him. A lot of people are like, don't take kids to Vegas. But there's so many things for kids to do if you are there with a kid. Like if you're not there with the kid, you're not going to find it because you're not looking for that. So I'm glad you guys had an opportunity to do that before um, life events cause you
Yeah.
not to travel as easily.
Welcome to Fathernetics, Fatherhood Unfiltered. I'm Jamil. Welcome to the
Do
podcast.
it, do it. You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby, you are gonna see.
Okay, so let's start with some introductions. Daniel, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Daniel. I'm 35 years old, and we live in Dundas, Ontario. It's just kind of outside of Toronto.
Okay, I've never been to Canada. I am very excited to go at some point. I don't know when my travels will take me there. Um, but maybe I'll have to visit some of these little towns. I've heard it's beautiful, so I'm down. How about you, Jeff?
My name's Jeff. I'm also 35. I was born and raised in the town we live in. And yeah, I've got a bit of a sports background, and currently I'm working as a 911 operator. So I've got an exciting job on the side that keeps me busy. Um, and yeah.
Okay, so tell me about the sports background because as a gay person, that is a interesting slice of the pie.
Yeah, so it's an interesting piece of my upbringing. My dad was really into hockey when I was growing up, so naturally, as the only boy in the family, I have two sisters. I was put into all the sports. So I did soccer, I did baseball, I did hockey. Um, Hockey was really the only one that stuck. And it stuck until I sort of began discovering myself, and like naturally my gay tendency sort of showed, and like in that hyper masculine straight environment, the straight guys start to recognize that as well. So I slowly started, becoming a little outcast in the team environment, and I recognized that when I was in like high school. I knew that like the house league hockey wasn't really going to take off. So it was something that I sort of started to take a step back from. But it was good. It taught me a lot about myself and a lot about team sports. And like you said, the sort of straight masculine energy that comes with it. But I think it's been a bit of a foundation on like how I have become who I am today and what I'm interested in. So yeah, there's some pros and cons to it, but it definitely was something that benefited me, I think,
So you,
overall.
you play tennis as well, right?
I have a huge passion for tennis. I don't play it as much as I probably am interested in it. Like, I could probably tell you every tennis tournament that's on and who's playing and who's winning. Like, I'm more into it in that regard. But I have a tennis racket. I've got tennis balls. I think the dog takes more of the tennis balls than I play with. But yeah, it's more of just like that's a small recreational thing. We're getting a bit into the pickleball as well. So you
Oh,
know,
that is huge out here in the US these
it's
days.
picking up. It's picking up here as well.
Oh, okay. So Daniel, do you play sports or is it just limited to pickleball?
Yeah, pretty limited in sports. I guess the more artsy one.
Okay.
I grew up kind of doing art and um, that kind of stuff. I tried to stay away from sports as much as I could. I did not jive with that world, and I let him have his sports, and I do the crafty stuff.
There you go. I mean, are you so you're the artisty, sportsy, not sportsy, but artisty guy. Is it painting? Do you draw? Do you knit? What do you do? Do you sell art on like the world market and we just don't know it?
No, as a kid, I would do everything like paint, draw, all of that stuff. As an adult, I'm more into DIYs, like house renovations, painting, rooms. and that stuff, like design and
Now you're talking my
Like
stuff.
at our last house, he built our front deck. So like he's creative and handy, and like he picked out like an intricate wood design for it. So like he's very hands-on and yeah, way more than I am for sure.
So what I will say is that's amazing because I am remodeling our house as well. And I think I've tore down every wall and rewired everything, done the HVAC and the backyard and trees and yards and sprinkler systems and you name it, I've dove into it head first. I think the only thing I haven't touched is there's something I won't do because I'm like, I don't want to play with that. I think it's the roof having to like because I need someone to do that for me so that if I get a leak, I can call them and go, it's covered as opposed
yeah.
to I didn't know what I was doing. Therefore, our living room has water in it. It's a fun kind of thing to get into. So I'm excited to hear that you do that. I'm excited, Jeff, that you play sports. It is definitely breaking the mold that we typically hear of when it comes to like stereotypical gays. So I'm always excited when I hear that kind of stuff. Perfect. Well, I know most of the folks on the podcast won't be able to see, but here is well, if I can hear it. Here is Bear.
Oh,
And
oh,
she is a Saint Newfie which is a Saint Bernard Newfoundland poodle.
wow. I grew up with St. Bernards. I love them. They're the best.
Well, there you go. She is super smart. She's very calm in temperament. She's about 85 pounds.
Oh, she's a big girl.
She is a heavy dog. When she steps on your foot, you will know it. And she's hungry. So when she's hungry, she'll sit here and stare at you, which is what she's doing right now. It's
Sophie, our dog Sophie was like her story into our life was pretty cute. Daniel surprised me on our third wedding anniversary. It was our third, right? Yeah.
I think it was our third. Yeah.
Whatever one is leather, I'm pretty sure it was third. And we were out grabbing a coffee in the morning, and he was like, "Oh, let's exchange a little gift." And I was like, "Okay." And he hands me a leather dog collar. And at first, my mom was like, "What's this?" And then he was like, "Want to go out to the farm and look at dogs?" And I was like, "Oh my God, we had been talking about getting a dog. We had the two cats." And I was like, "I guess this is the time." And how do you go out to a farm with puppies and like not bring one back, right? Like that was game over.
so
But
he
yeah.
was just one. I'm sure you wanted to bring them all back, right?
Oh my God, there was two girls left, and it was hard not to take both. But
Oh, that
Sophie made her way into our life, and that was it. Big, silly golden retriever.
making memories. I love it. So you guys have been together or met in 2008. So it's been a minute, right?
Yeah. We met during our first year of university in 2008. We dated for a while, and then life kind of took us separate ways for a couple years. And then we reconnected, and we've been together now for like over 10 years.
Yeah.
And we just celebrated our seventh wedding anniversary.
So I do want to say I've seen the picture from you guys in McMaster, and wow. I mean,
The chiseled eyebrows, the slick hair.
I know it's very glamour shots. If you guys are familiar with glamour shots,
That was the whole intention.
Yeah.
We like those pictures. We went into like the photo studio where they do the grad photos, and we're like, "Hey, if we pay for some photos and buy some sweaters, could you help us out?" And they were like, "Absolutely."
that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. So they were a little staged for sure, but that was on purpose.
All right. So tell me who raised their hand and said, we need to expand our family. We need a kid.
I think I definitely drove that conversation. My background is in early childhood education.
Mm-hmm.
So I have always loved kids. We had talks about kids, and we just couldn't imagine how we would navigate that to becoming parents. We didn't have a ton of role models or examples of that kind of working out for gay couples. So for a long time, we thought we will just be the two of us, some pets, and that was fine.
And like we really like agreed to that sort of when we entered into our marriage as like silly as that is, we were just like, you know what, like kids probably won't be for us. Like, and we thought that was probably one of those big rock conversations that you have before you like get the government involved into your life, right? So we entered into our like, long-term relationship being like, you know what, probably not an option for us, but COVID was really the changing force for us. Lockdown up here in Canada was something that obviously made us spend a lot of time together and have a lot more deeper conversations about like what building a family could look like and what the options are for us specifically in our province of Ontario. So yeah.
Yeah, in April 2020, just kind of after everything shut down, um, we started looking into adoption and foster care through the Children's Aid Society here. Um, we explored that, kind of filled out all our packages and um, got into a little bit of the training. And then Jeff's sister got pregnant, and we realized that it was a lot more than we could really sign up for at that time. Um, it just didn't feel like that was maybe the right path for us at that point.
Specifically with like the Children's Aid Society, it was just, yeah, it was more based on fostering and returning the children to like their biological family, and they no longer really had an adoption level program built into their service for like the province. So
So it was the program wasn't right for you, not the
yeah,
decision to expand the family.
exactly,
Gotcha.
exactly. Exactly. So we had to have a tough conversation and sort of level with each other about like, is fostering right for us? And like, with my job and my work schedule, could we provide the right home if we were to bring children that might not even be staying with us full time into our house? And how would that dynamic affect us? And would it be right for the children? Right. So that was something we had to bow out of. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. So we took a break from that, a step back. Um, Jeff's sister had twins, so they took up a lot of our time. And um, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we started talking about what surrogacy might look like. And we kind of dove head into that.
Okay. So just kind of hearing your story and talking about role models, one of the intention of this podcast is to kind of spread the word, make sure that people have a place to at least listen to similar stories, to say, hey, I'm thinking about this. I wonder if someone else has done it, what that path is. Is it okay to stumble and decide to go a different route? Is it okay to go the adoption route, the fostering route, the surrogacy route? What does that look like? It doesn't answer all the questions, but I think it answers more than was available to any of us 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe even 6 months ago, right? So the role models that you mentioned, that's you guys now, right? I mean, you're still in the middle of it. There is a middle and an end point at some point in your future. And I think just being able to say, we decided to do this, and this is where we are, and here are some of the struggles that we are seeing just going through this process. We're nowhere near the end. I mean, that could change, right, next month, right, or it could be another year. And I've just talked to somebody earlier today. I mean, their journey was 10 years. So it's like, wow. And it's because of all the red tape that we as LGBTQ couples have to go through, all the hoops we have to go through, the intentionality that you guys have in saying we want to expand our family, and here's the planning, right? The spreadsheets, the documentation, the follow-up, the interviews, the connecting, the certifications, the background screen, all of that stuff that you have to do that's unique to our LGBTQ community is something that I want to make sure people are aware of, because it shouldn't be this difficult with all of the kids that are available through the foster care system here in the United States and Canada, abroad. Why is it so difficult to pair us with a loving situation? It's needed. I mean,
Absolutely.
there are so many people out there cheerleading saying, we need parents, we need parents. Well, here's a full gamut of parents. Why are we having to pole jump just to be
Yeah.
considered? Right. So what are some of the challenges that you guys are experiencing now? Because this journey didn't start yesterday for you guys, but obviously there are some steps that you guys didn't anticipate that's causing heartache, I'm assuming.
Yeah, when we started looking into surrogacy, there are some kind of common misconceptions that it's only for really rich people. It is a costly um, way to build a family,
Mm-hmm.
but since starting this, we've really realized that a lot of normal people do surrogacy. Um, the money factor was a huge point for us. We had lots of talks about what that would look like, what we could scale back on and kind of give up to make this larger dream come true. And then we just realized, like, at the end of the day, it's money. We're not going to hold on to our money and in 10 years look back and think, what if? So we decided to just kind of go for it. Um, we would make it work. A lot of people have children without thinking of the money aspect, and they make it work. So we just thought we can do it. If other people can do it, we can do it as well.
So how many rounds would you say of rounds may not be the right word, and you guys are educating me as much as you are educating the podcast audience, but going through surrogacy and having to find what I'm assuming is a donor versus a surrogate, and then the financials that are tied to that. I'm assuming that in my mind, that's a round for me. So how many rounds of that have you guys gone through?
Well, I mean, our first step was like educating ourselves on the process. So in Canada specifically, independent surrogacy and agency surrogacy are both legal. So we started by determining like, are we going to be going with an agency who's going to help us match with a person, or are we going to do this ourselves and learn about the Assisted Human Reproduction Act? That's what governs it here in Canada. Learn about that, learn about all the laws required, and speak to people who have been surrogates, people who have been in the process. So we connected with like an independent consultant who has been a surrogate before and runs a bit of an educational service on the side. And we were able to educate ourselves about all the laws, and that took a good couple months of like sitting down together and going through a bunch of slides and different programs and understanding how reimbursements work in the world of surrogacy and all that kind of stuff. So once we got educated, we were like, okay, now we have to start with the egg donation process and finding someone that might want to help us with our journey.
So let me ask you this before you go forward. The education process for that, was that overwhelming, or is it like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, and let me just take a couple notes and move forward?
You know what? A lot of it did make sense. And both of us come from like a post-secondary background. Like we met in a university. So to us, like we were excited to get notebooks out, grab a couple pens and like sit down with a bowl of popcorn and, plug a laptop into the TV and do it together. But I mean, it did make sense. The stuff that stood out to us is sometimes how the government grants work, and how they truly are targeted to uterus having bodies in our province. And
What do you mean by that? What does that mean?
So in Ontario, there are some government grants that help with those rounds, like you were saying. Um, a round of IVF in Canada is around, it varies, but it's around $20,000. So
Okay.
for women and people with a uterus are given one IVF session or round, and that's paid for by the government. Now, you have to go to a specific clinic that does the government granted procedures, and there's a long wait list. Sometimes it's up to 18 months for that funded cycle. So as two men, we are not eligible for that. We would have to find a surrogate that hasn't used their one cycle. So yeah, that
And then like the difficulty too is when someone comes forward wanting to help you with your journey, like it already is a lengthy process. So think about adding another 18 months and like,
Right.
I mean, I'm not the person carrying the baby, but I would be of the mindset that if I was ready to help a couple, I'm wanting to help them now, not in 2 years, right? So that could also be a huge, you know, factor that might push someone away.
Point, because I wouldn't have thought about that. I hear 18 months and that computes, but then saying that this process doesn't really kick off into high gear for another
Yeah,
years, that's quite the investment in someone who, let's be honest, could decide to go a different route at any time, right?
yeah,
absolutely.
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 And you guys
So
have been through that.
yeah, so after the educational part, we kind of started having conversations with friends and family about,
Hey, we're gonna be looking into surrogacy.
yeah,
Like,
and we had someone kind of step up right away and say, like, if you guys need eggs, I'm here for you. I'm done building my family, so you can have them all.
it was like a jaw-dropping, almost instant tear moment of like, I can't even believe this is happening right now. Like,
Yeah, that it would
it's
happen that quickly and with someone that we love and trust and is going to be in our lives forever anyways.
The wheels are spinning, things are happening, everything's
Yeah.
happening.
we were just like, start the car, the good old IKEA commercial, start the car, let's get this moving. So we were excited to start that process, and it was a little lengthy, right? There has to be a lot of medical screening, lawyers get involved, and then it's 2 weeks of the egg donor getting pumped full of various medications and hormones, and then they do the egg retrieval.
And then it's kind of all up in the air if you get any eggs, if any of them become fertilized, and then there's some genetic testing that could whittle that number down even more. So even though you pay the $20,000 or whatever it is at your clinic, there's no guarantee that you're going to get those embryos at the end.
So,
Like,
so the egg donor is separate from the surrogate, correct?
absolutely.
Yeah. In some cases, they might do an egg donation and be a surrogate. It's very rare from what we've heard that it will be the same person. But yeah, in our situation, it's going to be two separate people.
Okay. So once you've gone through round one, you've done the certification, you found someone, they've gone through that $20,000 process that's granted through the government, you bond, you get down the road, you conceive, presumably. I think, and keep me honest, guys, I think you guys have gotten down to at least that part as well, right?
We have we matched with someone previously, which is kind of meeting a surrogate and aligning on all of the major points, and working towards a transfer and hopefully a pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
We spent about 6 months getting to know this person and kind of working through that process. And then it became clear that it maybe was not the right time for her and her family to do this. So we did have to make the difficult decision to step away from that match. And that was a really disappointing part of our journey.
It was like going through a breakup.
Yeah.
Like,
I have to say that's
like
gymnastics, right?
yeah, like we had talked to her almost daily since we met her, and we had created like a friendship with her, right? So, but in this journey, like what comes first for us is a proper positive match, and that's what we're looking for. It is a little transactional, right? Like, we're growing a family, but like we need to make sure that we're matching with the right person, and we have everything, like we have her best interest in mind as well, and we wanted her to know that like we have to be on the same page, right?
Yeah.
So
As much as we want something to happen, we also want it to be a positive experience for our surrogate, and putting her and her family first above a potential pregnancy, that's really important to us.
Like,
So,
listen, we're not going to egg your house. We understand. We get it.
right.
So as a couple, how do you bounce back from something like that? Because I can only imagine it's it's like a simmering pot in the background, right? Your emotions are like it's getting up, and then all of a sudden it's brought to the forefront because now it's not a thing. So how do you deal with that emotionally and decide, okay, we're gonna keep going?
Yeah, we took some time off of our search. We kind of,
We went dark on social media for a bit. We
yeah,
stopped posting. Um, like you said, it was hard because we had hopes of going for a transfer this summer. Like that was the plan, was to hopefully have a pregnancy by the end of the summer. So to go from having a positive match to what I'm calling a breakup, um, you're starting fresh, right? You're starting where we were just thinking about like how tough it was to put ourselves out there in the first place. We're both very private people. We're very private in our own LGBTQ community locally. We never had open facing social media before this. So to put ourselves out there and match quickly was great, but it was definitely a very high and a very low. So did a lot of reflecting. Um, I go to therapy in the background, so like I talk to my therapist a lot about it. Um, Daniel with his friends and his family reflected with them, and then we decided like these tough conversations and these tough moments are part of the journey, and like it's okay to be vulnerable too, right? Like it's okay to have a low and show people that like sometimes it doesn't always work out. And yeah, we just thought let's try and get back out there.
yeah. And going into this surrogacy journey, we know that we arrived at surrogacy without the trauma and experiences of infertility that a lot of people arrive at surrogacy with. So this was a bump in the road for us. We knew we could continue on and that there would be bumps in the road. Um, we hoped that it wouldn't happen to us, but we knew going into this that there were going to be some challenging times and it was going to be a test for both of us.
Now, in your community, were there other couples going through this process, or at least thinking about it, that you guys use as a sounding board, or were you still at the process where it's like we're the only ones doing it? So
Yeah, part of our independent surrogacy program is
We meet bi-weekly with a
Yeah.
support group.
biweekly support groups. So we meet with other intended parents, and they are single people, coupled, straight couples, gay couples, and we kind of have watched them go through the steps as well. Some of them are matched and well into pregnancies now. Some of them are just getting ready to match or are in that kind of embryo creation stage. So we see a whole range of journeys, and that was really helpful for us to see like it does work out for people and there are success stories in this.
And it's nice to have that group too, because it is such a niche community. Not a lot of people know the ins and outs of surrogacy, and a lot of people doing surrogacy stuff keep it private in the background because there's so much uncertainty and so much can go wrong along the way. Nothing's guaranteed. Even once you get to transfer, right? There's things that can happen. And obviously, you're screening out most of this during the matching process so that it doesn't. But just like with natural conception, stuff happens, right? So it's tough because you want to celebrate and you want to be happy and have everyone on your side, but you also have to be cautious because it's easy to have a letdown. So
and you guys have decided to go the other direction, right? Be very transparent, be very out there. Obviously, there's some pieces you're keeping to yourself, but you've been in publications as well, just kind of sharing your stories. Why do you think it is important for you to do that? I know there's a small piece of that that's saying more visibility allows for you to connect and find a good match, but I'm assuming there's also a part of that that's like I just want to make sure people can see this.
Yeah. We started kind of documenting our journey on Instagram as a way of matching, to kind of put ourselves out there publicly and say, like, this is who we are. These are kind of different sides of us. And then it became more of putting out that example that we didn't really have uh, when we started this. There's a surrogacy community in Canada that is really supportive of each other. And there are people that are advocating for surrogacy and more like government funding and stuff like that, that's going to make it a lot easier for people. And we kind of got into that community and um, are, yeah, documenting our journey for others to see that they can do this as well.
I love that. I love that. So tell me, Daniel, in this journey, obviously the ultimate goal is to expand your family and have a phenomenal human being to add to society to some degree. Where do you think you're getting your parental strength from? What has made you who you are today when it comes to fatherhood? Perhaps it's maybe you have a strong bond with your dad, maybe you don't, and that's helpful in a way to say I don't want that in my life or my kid's life whenever it comes around. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. I have a good relationship with my dad. It's not the strongest relationship. I'm very much closer with my mom. My dad is kind of a strong, silent type. He is the hardest worker I've ever met. He works 7 days a week. My whole life growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mother. So I got a lot of my parental influence from my mom, but I also took that hardworking kind of male figure from my dad. I think my parenting style will certainly be more influenced by how my mom raised us. But it's not like a negative relationship with my dad. It's just different. I always think like he's much closer with my younger brother. And that's because they have more stuff in common. I am the first child. He probably didn't know what he was really doing when he first became a dad. I think he had a learning curve there. And on top of that, I'm gay. So, and that was kind of his first experience with gay people. So it wasn't that our relationship is strained because of that. It was just something like we didn't connect with each other either way. I can't relate to what he does and his like mechanic background, and he doesn't relate to my more artsy side.
How would you take that into the next generation, right? Because I see this, your dad's one generation, you're the current generation, your kid's going to be the next one. Do you see yourself gravitating to just whatever my kid does, I'm into it, let's do it because of your experience with your dad?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to try to be more supportive. It's not that my dad wasn't supportive. I think he just didn't know how to support me in the ways that I needed to be. He was always there for me. So that is something that I'm going to take into my parenthood journey. But yeah, just fully invest myself in my children or my child. And
You
yeah,
said children. That's
children. Yeah, let's start with one. Let's see if we can get to one.
how about you, Jeff? Where do you get your fatherhood skills? And again, for us on Fathernetics, fatherhood is not from a male perspective only. It can be, right? Dad, coaches, brothers, uncles, but it can also be from moms and single moms as well. They all have fathers that they've had in their lives, and they're pulling that knowledge and that experience into who they are today and perhaps into who you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really good relationship with my dad growing up. Um, I kept my gayness pretty closeted for a long time, and I think in some strange way that helped me and my dad have a good connection. We were focused on sports. That was our relationship. He was a shift worker, so he did a lot of days and nights, and he was not present as much as he could have been. And I think that was due to his work schedule. But when he was around, he was the sports guy, right? We were always going to games and practices together. So that's how we bonded. And I had good experiences. I had good experiences with my coaches. They were super positive with me. I was never the best sports player. I was never the all-star hockey player, the all-star soccer player, but I was always included in that team environment. And I think that sort of inclusion helped foster a little bit more of a stronger outside skin to weather away some of the internal issues that I was struggling with. But between my coaches and my dad, both of them were sort of just the inclusion part. Like I can't stress that enough. Like as a gay person, as strange as that is, just being included was enough to make me feel worthy. And when it comes to the father side of it all, you know, my mom and dad both provided such positive things for me growing up. Like I didn't have a terrible childhood and I didn't have a ton of struggles. So I'm not giving you good points here for it, but
No, I think no, you're actually hitting the nail on the head because we all grow up different, right?
right. And there's a lot of people in our community that can't say the same. And I know that and I recognize that. And I know how privileged I am to have that kind of childhood. But when I came out, that relationship with my dad did change. I never really got to say I'm gay to my dad. That was a conversation I had with my mom that sort of was relayed to my dad. And it was like, your dad knows and he's not ready to talk about it. Your dad knows and he's not ready to talk about it yet. And it was more of a quiet couple years. But there was like with an ex that I had, he told me one day, why don't you go and represent the family at this stag and doe? And I was like, wow. So that was sort of a huge turning moment for me to be like, okay, he sees me, he accepts me, and this could be a huge turning point for us.
That's awesome. I always tell people like be excited about your story. I had an amazing childhood as well. And I'm still very close to my parents. I'm proud of that. I recognize, much like yourself, not everyone goes through that. And even before the whole coming out, and you hear all these stories, and LGBTQ youngsters coming out. If youngsters, I feel like an old man saying that. That come out and they're disowned and they're kicked out, and those stories are real, and they are tragic. I didn't have that experience, and I don't know anyone who is close to me, like friends or family who are gay, who've had that experience. But just to know that that is still something that's out there is tragic. And it, even now that I am a parent, and you guys will be parents soon, it just becomes a bright light, right?
Mhm.
We hear about it kind of like school shootings. We hear about stuff like that. Once you have a kid, it's like front and center. It's real. It just becomes a whole different monster in itself. So I wanted to ask, your family has nieces and nephews. You guys are gunkles, gay uncles, right?
Yeah.
How does that dynamic work now? Has there been conversations about, your current family model? You guys are gay, you guys are married, what does that mean? How are kids kind of identifying and saying, yeah, this is what's up? Let me explain it to you.
Yeah. Jeff's older sister has two daughters, and they're older. They're in their late teens and early 20s now. And they've kind of seen us together for years.
Yeah.
It's never really been different
Yeah.
than that.
And I've had conversations with both of those, like I call them my adult nieces compared to like the boys, the twins. And they had so many questions about surrogacy. And it was so interesting to sort of give them some insight into our journey, because I think to them, us being together and being a gay couple is just natural. They don't have any questions about that. But they just have questions about like the family growing process. So it was cool to sort of explain that to like teenagers that know how conception happens, but maybe not how the surrogacy journey world happens.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, with the twins,
With the two boys,
they're three.
yeah.
So
You
you
said
can't have
they're three?
three.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So,
not so much a
but
conversation.
we bought my sister a cute little book that talks about building families from different perspectives in kid language, right? So sometimes it says the book about like, you know, two boys being together and how do they grow their family? They have to have someone with a belly to help them. So it talks about it in sort of kid terms, and that's sort of how we started that conversation on that side.
And they know us as Uncle Jeff and Uncle D. So I mean, we will definitely have to have conversations with them about our kind of family structure when they're older, when it's more appropriate. But we think that them growing up with two uncles, it's not going to be, hopefully, it won't be very different for them.
And you know, like as sometimes the token days in our friend circle, sometimes you get the invite to the baby showers, right? Things that normally are like female dominated little parties. And our go-to is always getting a token little book we like to give them, and it's called Entangle Makes Two. And it's Entangle Makes Three. And it's a true story about two penguins who adopted an egg, I think at the San Diego Zoo, and raised it as their own. And it's like a story of family building that's very kid appropriate, and sort of adjacent to real life that they can sort of introduce to their bookshelf collection. So that's sort of our little go-to gift when we get our token invite, that they can have their little bit of LGBTQ story time.
I love that because I think kids soak it all up, right? And I kids learn what we teach them. They learn to hate. They're not born that way. They learn to discriminate. They learn that things that are different are things to be highlighted and talked about if we allow them to go down that path. And I think that one of the defining moments of this generation is we have a lot more gay parents that are seeking to expand their families. So I can only imagine what the next generation is going to look like when we have teenagers growing up that are so accepting of the right things and being able to say, I have a good foundation, but I also have my opinions. And let me share that with you. Let me tell you, you know, why this is the way it is and why I feel the way that I feel. So I'm excited about what that could look like. It cannot come soon enough here in the United States, and given our political climate. So I'm unfortunately probably not going to see the circle come all the way around, but I'm excited to at least support the curves and twists and the turns that comes out of all of that. In your circle of friends, how does that support stand for you guys? Obviously, you're going through something that's probably unique to everybody in your group, apart from those that are coming from the agency. But is it more of I'm educating everyone at every step? Is it more of just let us know when something happens and we'll show up? Or is it more of it's in the corner, not really interested?
It's been a lot of education, a lot of explaining how the process works. You get a lot of sometimes out of field questions about the journey, and that's natural because people don't know and they don't they're just trying to understand. Like people get curious about who's the egg donor or who's this or who's that, and sometimes those are private conversations that we're not ready to have with people, and there's also legal implications where the egg donor's privacy is protected for a reason as well, right? So but it's fun, like the education piece, just it's exposure for us, and word of mouth in independent surrogacy is how you end up finding that special person, right? It takes such a special person to altruistically come forward, because especially in Canada, we can't pay you to come help us, right? We can only reimburse you for what you've paid out of pocket during this journey. So it is sometimes a factor that makes it that special person a little harder to find.
Yeah. But honestly, the support that we've gotten right from the beginning, our friends and family have been so supportive. They share all of our stuff. They post it on their own sometimes, and it's even like really positive.
Our little local community. We live in a very small town, so our mailman brought us some of the copies of the paper when our article ran, and he just randomly showed up at our door one day and was like, hey, I noticed you guys were in the paper. Do you want a few extra copies? And it just like
Oh my God.
melted
We're
our
all moving to
right?
your town. Let's do it.
Right? Like it was the sweetest little gesture, and like it was captured on our doorbell camera, and I was like, oh my God, that would be like what a moment, right? So we had to save that clip just for our own personal journey. Because
Wait,
it
how do
was
you get your milk? Is it
stuff
still in
like
like
that.
little jars they deliver to your front door? Is that how you get your milk?
Oh my God, no, but
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's a good
It's been really well received, and we couldn't ask for anything more. We know it's a long journey, but it's been so positive for us so far. We're very thankful.
So what do you say, last question here, what do you say to other couples that are just now starting this journey and maybe feeling frustrated? Because, I've talked to so many people and frustration is always part of the equation. It just seems like something that everyone should be prepared for and can never really be ready for. I know that's an oxymoron, but it's like, yeah, we know what's going to happen, but when it hits, it's a complete surprise anyway. So what do you say to people who are thinking about or kind of in the middle of this journey and it's taking so long or it feels like it's not going to happen? um what do you recommend? What do you think?
the waiting is the worst. There's so much, there's only so much that you can do to make progress in this sort of way of building your family. And then a lot of it is waiting for the right person to come along or waiting for the transfer to work. Um, I would just say the reward is going to be worth the wait, no matter how long that takes or how difficult it is to get to that reward. Um, it's going to be worth it in the end, and that's definitely something we tell ourselves when we're having those rough days or low points.
I say, like, just stay hopeful, right? Like, IVF, which is helping us grow our family, is only about 40 years old. So recent developments are always happening. Options keep coming up. There's so many ways for people to build a family these days. And what you may have thought was going to be your journey might not be your journey anymore, but you can navigate a different path, right? Through egg donation, sperm donation, adoption, foster. There's so many paths. So I think that it's worth to take the time and dive into your family journey. And it's got disappointing moments, but like Daniel said, it's worth it in the end, and stay hopeful.
Well, I'm excited to have met you guys at this point in your journey, because then I get to be witness to when it actually happens and be able to celebrate with you guys. So thank you for spending time with me on this podcast. Again, we're trying to build a community where there are additional resources available, even if it's just the stories that we tell, right? That says you're not alone. We've gone through this before. Here's what it could potentially look like. And then maybe 10 years down the road, we can all laugh and say it's gotten better. It's quicker. The rules have changed, the laws have changed, our culture has changed. Fingers crossed that will be the case in the next 3 years here in the United States. Will show us the way that we should not go, but go down that path. But I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much. That was awesome.
Do it. You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze.